This is my chance to talk to fellow speakerpreneurs, a word I created many, many years ago. And today I have another powerhouse professional speaker. You may have heard of him out there. His name is Marty Wolff. And I asked him, tell me a little bit about what you do. He's an executive coach, business consultant, MC. And my favorite thing is small to mid-sized companies hire him for strategic planning for their leadership team. So that's huge. So that means you're pretty busy right now, I would imagine, Marty.
Yes, we are.
Marty is also a part of Jeffrey Hazlett's network. You know, he's part of our Speaker Hall of Fame. He's part of the C-Suite Radio Network as well as the C-Suite TV show network. So we really got a mover and shaker here. All right, Marty, welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here. I really am. I've been looking forward to it, you know.
Well, tell us, first of all, you've had your own podcast for 5 years. And tell us a little bit about the name of it, who tunes in, and then we'll get into the other stuff we're dying to know.
The show is named The Business Builders Show. We've been at it for 5 years. That's kind of important. I've been practicing a long time. We started out on a small local radio station on a live Saturday show. It's directed to entrepreneurs, business owners, and business leaders. That hasn't changed in 5 years. And we were live, like I said, for a while. It was on a radio network. We syndicated for a while. What we learned over a period of time was, quite frankly, the power of a podcast was much more effective for us. So I guess it was about 2 years ago, we went all podcast. And also under the Business Builder Show brand, we also do interviews, video interviews. So those are also available via the Business Builder Show brand.
Now, Marty, you mentioned that podcasting is more effective. More effective than what?
Well, then the traditional radio, unless you are willing to invest lots of time, money, effort, it's difficult to break in where you can get a good audience doing that. A good audience means sponsorship, listeners, people who are paying attention to you. Now, even back then we were doing social media, but we really ramped up our social media efforts when we got the podcast. We're on SoundCloud, we're on iTunes. We do a pretty good job, I think, of promoting it, the podcast. And the whole idea of being on demand is what really matters. That's what matters, being on demand. Somebody can look you up and say, okay, I'm driving down the road. Let's listen to Marty for whatever reason they'd like to do that.
Now, Marty, speakers are listening, and I know a lot of us out here either already have a podcast, we're thinking about here in 2017 putting our own podcast together. What are 3 things we should know and just consider these are folks that have never thought about podcasting? Maybe 3 things that you would love to share with us that maybe you wish you had known or that plays a really big role with podcasting.
Well, the first thing has to do with what we should be as speakers and meeting facilitators or business or coaches, and that is know your material. Don't go in this because you read a book. Does not necessarily make you a great podcast. It doesn't make you a great speaker. So the first thing is just know your material. At the beginning, that's all we focused on, and really at the beginning, if you listen to any of my stuff, I don't say much. Just like now, I'm doing a lot of the talking because you're the interview. I've had Bob Berg, Cal Newport, Jeffrey Hazlett, Bo Burlingham. I can keep on going, names. So, but what I did before I had them on, guess what? I read their book.
Okay.
Now that's distinctive. When they say you really read my book, I said, yeah, I really read your book. That's distinctive. So the first thing is know your material, know your audience, whether that's one person or a group. Talking podcasting. Get comfortable with the technology, whatever you're using. I've been blessed that I have a radio station that I use because I also do a local radio show. It's not that complicated to do a podcast today. I can't give advice on what material, but it's not that complicated. You can, in fact, do it out of your bedroom for a few $100s, but get the right material, get the right, you know what I'm trying to say, equipment. and make sure that the primary thing is audio. Make sure your audio comes through like I hope this is coming through very clearly. And then I guess the third thing that pops into my brain is treat your guests with the utmost respect during the interview and after the interview. Treat them golden because they have been kind enough to come on and spend time. And most of the people you interview, you and me, they're busy people. So if they're devoting a half hour of their time to you, that's pretty special. So treat them like it's special.
Wonderful. Now, of course, everyone wants to know how, clearly this is a marketing strategy under so many levels, from visibility to lead generation. You've had this for 5 years. How did your business change once you started to podcast?
It changed in terms of my credibility, primarily. I just was demonstrating that I was a business expert. By the way, I was able to communicate with people, both the people that I was interviewing and the people who interacted with me, listeners. I was able to demonstrate an expertise. Once you get stronger, you take, you crawl, you walk, you run, in everything. As I kept on going, then I got more aggressive in my social media. I started to use LinkedIn more. I started to post things that I learned from guests. And so it definitely positioned me as a business expert. And that was the key thing. As a matter of fact, sometimes I say to people, and thank goodness, thank God, I'll say, okay to say God? Thank God. Most people find out about me through the show. And so I say, well, if you want to learn more about me, you already know about me because you listen to me on the show. So it's purely, I love doing it, but it's purely marketing.
That is so important. And then how long have you been in business, Marty, for yourself?
I've been in business. I've had 4 different businesses. So I am a serial / crazy entrepreneur. I was with my son the other day and he said, Dad, you just can't help yourself. And I think there's some truth to that. But in terms of consulting and training and strategic planning, since 1989, actually, I had a 10-year stint. I left and then I came back. So I've been at this whole idea of business consulting, executive coaching, and podcasting for a long time.
Wow. Now, you said credibility and clearly positioning has worked for you with your podcast. Now, we have professional speakers saying, okay, credibility is great. That's wonderful. Well, what about lead generation, especially if you intertwine your social media or put on social media, hey, come and listen to this particular interview? Would you say that you've been able to get more clients that you could take through strategic business planning, or maybe existing clients that really like, know, and trust you more?
Yes, I have gotten more clients. Now, I have done it very slowly. I was not in a rush. We have a decent business. I was looking for quality leads. Things are a lot different today with podcasting. You can, in fact, find a great podcasting coach. Not me, but there are people out there who can help you accelerate your skills as a podcaster, and more importantly, to make it marketing. If you're a speaker, a professional speaker, that's what you want. You want to market your skills and get lead generation. I was not that focused on that initially. But now, can I mention a couple of names that I'd recommend?
Oh, right ahead.
John Lee Dumas, D-U-M-A-S, is great. Joel Boggus, B-O-G-G-E-S-S. 2 great people who are doing extraordinary podcasting and can teach you how to do it very effectively. There's more, but those are 2 popped into my brain.
Wonderful. And then, Marty, here's a question I like to ask everyone, because I truly believe, and it took a long time for me to understand this coming from the world of broadcast news at CNN. We often hear it's not what you know, but who you know. How would that apply to you in terms of connections? Yeah, how would that apply to you?
Yes, who you know or who knows you is probably even more important. Who knows you? It's the same philosophy of, you can say you're great, but when somebody else says you're great, then that has a lot more power. So speaking of power, man, social media today, are you kidding me? I mean, if anybody can see me, you can see me. I'm not 20 years old. Today, with podcasting and with social media, you can accelerate your growth just tremendously. But the key lesson, I hope I'm answering your question.
You are.
The key lesson is content, content, content. Do not launch something unless you are ready, not to be perfect, but to put your all behind it and to be excellent at it.
That's a big point, because oftentimes speakers, not just speakers, but others in our industry or they're in related industries will say, okay, I want to be a podcaster. And then they'll go interview 5 people, they'll put it up, and then they'll say, I'm bored. Now let me go and do a video blog. I'm bored. Now let me go and do a Twitter chat every single week. So what keeps you focused and stops you from being all over the place?
I'm lazy. I can't possibly do all that. I focus. That's the guess. Well, I focus on who I think, and I podcast for my audience. Anything I do with social media is for my audience. That's why LinkedIn is my main thing. I certainly have lots of people on Twitter. I have lots of people on Facebook. But everything is based on my focus is on my audience. Where are they? Who are they? How do I reach them? So that's my focus. I don't try to do, quite frankly, for me, Snapchat, that doesn't matter at this point. Now, some people say, well, Marty, you want to reach a younger audience? Well, I understand that. But you can't be all things to all people and be good at it. And also, remember what I said a couple of minutes ago. What's really important is who knows you. Mm-hmm. That's what you're trying to do with all your marketing materials, with your podcast, with your speaking. If you want to be a great speaker, what do? You speak. And you practice in the basement, then you practice at the Lions Club, and then you practice and you get 50 of those under your belt, and then you say, I want to charge whatever. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a podcaster, practice, practice, practice. And one of the key ways to practice is attempt, if you're good, if you're worthwhile, to get on other people's podcasts. Be interviewed by other folks. That's a great lesson. Now, you got to have content. That make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. So everyone knows how to reach you. I would love for you to share your podcast so that we can all become fans of it. How can folks find your podcast, and tell us a little bit about who you serve, just in case a fellow speaker wants to reach out to you to have a conversation?
Well, the best place to go is actually my website, which is Marty Wolff, businesssolutions.com, and Wolff is spelled W-O-L-F-F, Marty Wolff, businesssolutions.com. If you look up Marty Wolff on SoundCloud, you will find me there. If you look up Marty Wolff or the Business Builder Show, you will find me on iTunes. Again, in terms of serving, you mean what do you be clear on how you want to?
Well, there's all types of speakers listening, and we do have a lot of leadership, a lot of speakers that are in the leadership area. So they may want to call up a mastermind with you. And sometimes we have non-speakers that will listen and say, hey, I need that guy's help. So.
Yeah. Well, my main role is I do some speaking, and that's speaking, but I do a lot more facilitating and a lot more MC or host. So I certainly speak to groups, but most of my work is facilitating meetings, strategic planning meetings, small groups of senior executives, and that's where I spend most of my time. And I learned to do that just like everybody else. I read the books I did, and then I follow people like Joe Calloway, Scott McCain.
All big timers in the NSA world.
Yeah, and Joe Calloway pretty much does what I do. So whenever I see Joe Calloway is doing something, I steal it.
In a good way, right?
In an honorable way, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. We're so glad to have you here. And let me tell you something. I was so excited to introduce you. I forgot to tell folks who I am. So let me just take a moment. I am Marquesa Pettway, business reinvention expert in New York City. I help entrepreneurs use speaking to grow their business. That's why I created the word speakerpreneur. And again, I'm a proud columnist for Speaker Magazine. And I love having guests like Marty on to share their best practices. Thank you, Marty, so much. And guys, don't forget to check Marty out in Speaker Magazine. It's going to be on an issue soon enough. You can get it online, you can get it in the mail, or you can just go to speakermagazine.com and check out everything. Thank you so much, Marty, and thank you, guys.
It's been a blast. Thank you.